All right, this is going to be your final project for the class, and it's probably going to be the most difficult. But if you watch this video and you pay attention to the clues and tips that I'm going to give you, this project will not be too crazy, and I think you'll definitely enjoy doing this project. So you have 4 houses that you can see right here on the camera, and all of these houses are made up of individual wooden cut pieces that allow the pieces to come together like in a puzzle. So what I'm going to do is kind of deconstruct one of the houses as an example, and then show you how the pieces are used to make the house, and then how you can easily redraw and create this product using Onshape and using the 3D printer in the classroom. Now the goal is also for me to 3D print all the pieces and give them to you, so you'll have the opportunity to take one of these home before the holiday break. Let's start with this house right here. So you can see this house is made up of several shapes. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you can see 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15, 16. There's 17 shapes that I need to create in order to make this puzzle with the 3D printer. So what I would recommend is, always start with a series of pieces and go in order. So example, I'm going to start with the top roof. So all I have to do is on a sheet of paper, come over and I'll write roof. And I might write roof pieces, so that I know what I'm doing. And then I probably want to keep in mind left side, center, right side. So I'll come over here and I'll do left, and I'll do right, and then over here I'll do center. This helps me ensure that I'm making the right measurements and I'm doing the right piece. So take a look what I do right here. I'm going to pull this left piece off, and you can see it's just a simple rectangular shape, and it has 2 rectangular slots that are used to connect right here to attach to the house. So it's really simplistic in nature. So all I have to do right now is draw out the length, the width, and the height of this rectangle, and then again find the X and Y coordinates and do the length and width for it. So what I'll do is sketch out this piece real simple like this on a sheet of paper, and then I know somewhere over here they've got 2 rectangular cutouts for the puzzle piece. So what you want to do is measure the length, and so if I take this piece, I'll just simply take my digital calipers and I'll measure out the length. And it's 36.25 millimeters in length. So that's simple, 36.25. All right, the width. All I have to do is follow the same process, come measure the width. And the width is 34.66. So I'm going to keep that. That's pretty specific. Maybe I could go 34.7 just to make life easier, because I can round up to 34.7. So the width is 34.7. Now we know this is definitely a rectangle because all sides are not equal. Then I need to know what the thickness is. So I'll take the calipers and quickly measure this piece. It is 2.55 millimeters, so 2.5 millimeters. So height or thickness is 2.55 millimeters. So all I have to do now in Onshape is quickly draw this rectangular shape very simply. This could be done in a matter of less than a minute, of putting in the length dimension and width dimension and extrude 2.55 millimeters. Now the hard part then begins okay, how am I going to find the X and Y coordinates? Now looking at this, you only have to find one coordinate for each of these slots. So for example, all I have to do is find this top corner and I can measure out this piece and draw it. So take a look. I have to find this spot. So X, this is Y, and this is X. So what I'm going to simply do here is take the calipers and I'm going to come up to here and measure the height, 7.5. That's easy enough. So all I have to do is on the first point that I'm finding, all I have to do is Y equals 7.5. So that means you're going to draw a line going down from this top left corner, 7.5, and then all I have to do is measure the width, and it's 3.25. All right, so the X, excuse me, not the width, the X is 3.25, so that's easy. So all I have to do in Onshape is go down from the top left when I finish this process and extrude out this rectangular shape. All I have to do is draw a new sketch on the top, go down from the top corner 7.5 millimeters and go over 3.25. Now the next part's really easy. Because it's a rectangle, all I have to do is measure the top line right here and draw a straight line like this. Then all I have to do is measure this line and draw a straight line going down. And then very simple, I just do the same, since it's a rectangle, distance back and then the same distance up that I went down over here. So for example, this line, if I measured it, I take the teeth and go inside of it, and it says basically 2.96. We round up to 3 millimeters. So I know this top line is 3 millimeters. I know this bottom line is now 3 millimeters. This side line, all I have to do is come in here with the inside jaws, measure it, and it says 8.45. Or let's do 8.5. So all I have to do is make this line 8.5 millimeters. All right, once I finish drawing both of these and finding the X and Y for this point and doing the same process, and by the way, technically speaking, you could do the mirror tool and mirror this shape onto the other side, since they're probably symmetrical in nature, and you don't even need to worry about the X and Y and do this step. You just draw a line up in the midpoint and reflect this shape across, and you've got your first roof piece done. What you want to make sure you do is in Onshape, that when you're doing this puzzle, that each piece that you are recreating, make sure you label them appropriately with the option that you can label in Onshape for the part assembly, and then create a new part assembly and then follow the same step. Now odds are the right roof piece looks like it is exactly the same. So all you really have to do is just copy, I'll show you that in a minute, that piece that you created and call it the right roof piece. So the only one that's really different is going to be this center roof piece. So there's really only two types of pieces that you have to recreate to make the roof. Now, this is going to be the challenging part. After you have remade all the shapes, you're going to then put it all together in the assembly, but the challenging part isn't this part of your test. It is for you to take the ideas you learned on how they made this house with the different puzzle pieces and create your own house made with puzzle pieces. So that's really the challenging part of the project. So you have two parts of the project. You gotta recreate all the pieces and make this house in Onshape, and you gotta make a new house that is a puzzle house in Onshape. That's it. This is your final project for the course. Good luck, and I'll show you in the next part of this video how to draw these shapes that I measured and showed you in the video. All right, your next step after measuring a piece is to go into Onshape and start creating the pieces. You'll create your first piece, and then after you create your first piece, you'll then start adding more and more pieces to the library as you measure them and complete them. So your very first step, though, is to go to Onshape, go to Create, and click on Document. You're going to call this the wooden toy house puzzle project, and then you're going to put your name and then hit OK. What you're going to want to do that makes life easier is go over to the left, and where it says front plane, bring the mouse to the eye and left click to hide it. Do the same thing for the right plane and hide it, and left click on the top of the cube looking down. Never forget, go to the 3 bars, go to workspace units, and change inches to millimeters and hit the green check. Now you are ready to go. Now I'm going to draw that roof piece really quick for you just to demonstrate how easy it is and how to get the process going. In the bottom left corner, go ahead and right click on Part Studio and click rename, and what you're going to want to do is call this the left and right roof piece. Because technically speaking, you don't need to draw 2. I know I said in the other video you would just copy it and rename it. That's silly. They're identical pieces. So you're just going to call it the left and right roof piece. What you're going to do is go sketch, and then left click on sketch, and then left click on the top plane to get started. So now I've got my sketch on the top plane. Now looking back at the picture, I've got 2 pictures that I took of my sketches. It tells me that I need 36.25 by 34.70. So all I have to do is take the center point tool, rectangle tool, left click on the origin once and let go of all the buttons, drag the mouse down into the right, and then left click. So the first number was 36.25. So I'm going to type 36.25. And then the next number was 34.70, I believe. Let me double check. 34, correct. And then I'm going to hit enter. So now I already have that roof piece started. What I want to do now, though, is not extrude. I'm actually going to go ahead and draw in those cuts that you saw that connect. So the first thing that I saw when I measured, wrong drawing, that's going to be the next part of the video, is looking at this picture. I go down 7.5 and over 3.25 to find that first X and Y coordinate for the cutout. So I go down 7.25, so I come over to the top left and click 7.25 and hit enter. And let me make sure that's, hold on a second, that's exactly the number. Yep, no, it's 7.5. So I apologize. 7.5, and then it's 3.25 over. All right, and then I measured in the picture that line is 3 millimeters across and then 8.5 down. So all I have to do is go over to the right and type 3 and go down 8.5, and I have that initial cutout. Now I can just bring the line and touch that dot and slowly bring that yellow dotted line down until it shows me that it's parallel and straight, and click, and then I left click again on a dot above and connect. So now I have that cutout. Now I'm going to right click escape line. Now I'm going to go back to that line tool and find the midpoint, left click and go down, and then I'm going to go to the mirror tool and click on that line, and then I'll start left clicking on these lines to reflect across, and go to scissors and then delete. Now please don't just mirror everything and assume it's symmetrical. You can really tell if it's symmetrical. It's a good idea to check when you measure the part, though, that, for example, you know, the distance from this spot to this line says 3.25, and then verify on the part that it is the same distance from that corner to the line as well. If it is, then you're good. It is a symmetrical part. I think most of these parts are symmetrical, so don't worry about that. Just verify it with the calipers. It's really simple. Like I measured from here to here 3.25 with the calipers. You do the same. Now what I'm going to do is right click escape trim. I'm going to left click on the center face, go extrude, and I'm going to type in 2.5 and hit enter and hit check. So there is the left and right roof piece. That's not hard at all. So this process shouldn't be too bad. What I'm going to do actually is show you the side panel piece. So I actually went ahead and measured this side panel piece for this house, and I also want to show you how to do a piece like this that is a little more complicated. So in the next video, you'll see me sketching this piece out. what you're going to do is go down to the bottom left corner, hit on the plus sign, and you'll do a new part studio, and you'll right click and rename it, and you'll say this is the side panel piece. All right, so I hope this video is helpful, and I hope the next part of the video helps you out with a more complex piece. Okay, so now I'm ready to go, and the piece that I'm actually going to do is that front panel piece that you see right here. So I'm going to recreate this. Now some notes, this is a symmetrical part, meaning all I have to do is half of the side and mirror it over. And then obviously you can see these windows are centered in the midpoint, so I have a way to measure from the middle up to the edge of this circle and recreate it. So I've already got the measurements. I'll show them to you at this time. Here you can see I have the measurements. So I know this line is 23.75 since I used the outside jaw from this line to this line. So watch what I do. I'm going to come to Sketch, left click on it, and left click on the top plane, left click on the line tool, left click on the origin, and go out to the right and type 23.75 and hit enter. So now I have the bottom piece of that side panel. Now I'm going to go ahead and go up straight and click. And what I'm going to do now is go back to that drawing, and it says 13.5 from right here to here. So what I'll do then is type 13.5 and hit enter. So now I've got that starting point right here, these two lines. Then I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to go back and look how far over. It says 2.8 and then up 15 and then over 2.8. So I'll go over here and I'll type 2.8. I'll draw a line up that's straight, 15, and then I'll draw a line to the left. Now the program already identified it, which if it didn't, all you had to do is type 2.8. Then I'm going to draw a line that's going straight up at a 90-degree angle, and it looks like I got to go 18 and then 8. So all I have to do is type 18. And then go over to the left, straight, 8. And then I remember in the program, the picture, it said 8.5, up 8.5, which you can see right here, it went up 8.5. Now, I don't even need to do anything else. I don't even need to do this number. It's a symmetrical part. So what I'm going to do now is draw a line down from the center or the midpoint of the line and use the mirror tool to take everything to the other side. So I'm going to right click escape line. I'm actually going to left click and hold on these numbers and pull them outside the part just so it's easier for me to see the work inside. So I'm not confused by all the number and measurements. So I'm going to go to my line tool. I'm going to find the midpoint of the line, which is the center or middle of the line, and left click and go straight down. I'm going to go to the mirror tool. I'm going to click on that line. And then I'm going to start clicking on the lines I want to reflect across that line. And you can see that I have now retraced the side onto the left side. And then I'm going to take my line and just connect up to here. And notice it equals 7.75, which is pretty ironic because that's exactly what I measured on the part. So that's really cool that that kind of worked out like that. Now I'm almost done. All I need now, as you can see in this picture, is these windows that are on the part. So I've already measured them, and I'm going to go back to this drawing right here and take a look. I told myself that I need to start in the middle and go up 7 to reach the outside edge of the circle, and that I need to go in 3 millimeters up to reach the outside line of the circle to that line right beneath the circle line, and then up 2 to get to the rectangle, and that this line is 6, and then up is 5.25. So let's do that. So I take my line, I click on the midpoint and go up, and I type 7 and hit enter. And then I'm going to go up again 3 and hit enter. I'm going to go to my circle. Since the first part of the window is half of a circle, I'm going to left click on that point and then left click on this point to give me half of the circle. And what I'll do is draw a line in the middle of the circle across like you saw in the sketch. Alright, so I have my line there. I'll go to the scissor tool. I'll delete that and I'll delete this line. So now it looks exactly like the window in the picture, which you can see right there. It looks exactly like that window. All right, so now my next step is to go up 2 millimeters and then draw a 6 millimeter line. So here we go. I'm going to minimize this. So I'm going to go up 2 millimeters, like so. And now, technically speaking, I don't really need to type anything because I could just start a line and touch this point with the mouse, not click, just touch it, and bring it up until I see that it is a right angle and it's going perfectly straight up and left, and click. Same thing over here, touch this dot and go up, and that's a 6 millimeter line. I start a line and go up 5.25, and then I can start a line over here and just touch this point and click, and then I made a little mistake there, let me undo that. I'll draw a line from here to here, click, click from here to here, and click. All right, so now I'm almost done. I need the other 2 windows right here, and according to the drawing, I go up 8.5 and I repeat those steps. So all I have to do now is go find the midpoint, go up 8.5 because that was the distance from this window to the top of the circle. Remember, the circle was in 3 millimeters. Draw a circle from that point to that dot. Draw a line across. And then I'll draw a line across. I'll take the scissor tool and clip half the circle off. Now all I'm going to do is go up 2 millimeters, hit enter, and basically just do the same thing you saw me do on the other window, which is really easy. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to zoom in so it's easier to see. Here we go. And then I'm going to go up 5.25 and then touch that dot so that it's lined up. And there we go. Now, I know the part is 2.5 millimeters thick, so watch what you do. You're going to right-click escape line, left-click on the face, go extrude, and type in 2.5 and hit enter and hit check. I now have that side panel piece complete. All right, and what I'm going to do is go down to where it says Part Studio 1 and right-click on it and hit rename. And I'm going to call this House Side Panel. All right, and then I'm going to go to the plus sign and create a new studio. And this is where I do the next piece and I name it what it is. So you will follow this step through and through to complete the project. Now, good luck. It's not that complicated as long as you can do these things, as long as you can find a starting point. So for example, on this piece, my starting point would be this line. I would draw whatever the distance is from this point to this point first. And then I know that this guy starts in the middle. So I know that I can then measure whatever the distance is from this point to this point, and then divide by 2, and I can draw half the line this way and then half the line this way, and then I can get that piece in. So it would be the same process as like this one, just doing that over here. This one's complicated. On this one, I would make like a rectangle shape, and then what I would do is then cut out with the lines the distance that you find. It's a puzzle. So you're going to have to find a way to draw it. So good luck. But I did this piece as a starting point. You can take what I did here and go forward with it. Now, the last thing I do want to show you in the video is that after you make your pieces, you will go to the assembly and you will insert the pieces and like so, and then you'll attach them to the base plate. So this one would attach the base plate. So what you would do is insert the base plate when you draw it, and you would go to the fasten mate, and you would come down here and find the center of this point. Let me see if I can find it, and click on it, and you would then find the center on the point on the base plate that it snaps into, and that's how you'd put all the pieces together. Good luck. I hope you like this video. All right, students, the final thing that you need to do to complete this project and your final assessment is to take all the pieces that you've recreated in Onshape and assemble it. So I'm going to show you two complete projects as examples. So on the wooden house puzzle, number 2, you'll see I have all the individual pieces done. Now remember, I told you that a lot of the pieces you'll create are the same pieces used on another part of the house. So this roof piece here is actually used twice, so I only have to do one. Don't duplicate it, just call it left and right roof piece. You see here's the center roof piece. And something common about each of these drawings is that you can see there's only one sketch and one extrude. So I have a basic sketch right here, and this is probably a very simple and easy sketch to do. So don't think that this project will be overwhelming and not possible to do, because you already possess the skills and knowledge to do this assessment. Now look at the side panels. Again, I did plural because you're going to use this side panel twice, so you only had to make one. Now I show you how to make this exact side panel, and I want to kind of explain that when you draw these pieces, try to think of the simplest way to draw it. So for example, on this piece that I drew in one sketch, I just measured the distance from this line to this line and drew a straight line. I then measured the distance from here to here, and I just kept working up in straight lines until I had all the way up to this line, and then I found the midpoint on this line and I mirrored or reflected across. Very easy. And on these window cutouts, they're simple. You just have to find one corner where the X is. So I measure from here to here. All right, and then I come down to here and draw across, and then I measure from here to here and I come up, and then I just simply measure this window line and draw a straight line to the left and draw a line straight up. And then I just simply measure the distance from here to here and draw a straight line up, and then I measure the distance from here to here and draw a straight line up, and I simply draw a circle that goes from this dot to this dot, and then I cut away the outside of the circle to give this window. So it's really not that ridiculous. Here's the front facing wall. I measured the distance X and Y for this point, and then the X and Y for this point, because these are straight lines then, and I can just simply measure and draw them. That's probably the hardest one to do. Now, in order to make this line correct, this is actually the hardest line to do. What I had to do was I drew all the way up to here with my lines, just doing like I told you, and then I worked my way up the middle until I found the distance from this cutout to the top, and I drew this line here and here, and I got this line to here. And then I did what we did with other projects. I just connect this line to this line to get that angle that I don't know what it is. So it's not that complicated if you break it up into chunks. So here's the back wall. Here's the base plate. Here's the front gate. Here's the front and right roof piece. And here's the center roof piece. And here's the gate supports. And then here is the assembly. Now this is what your project needs to look like at the end. I'm going to show you how to do this assembly in a couple of pieces. So what you do is you go down to the plus sign after you've done all your parts and go to create assembly. So here's assembly 2. Now granted, you automatically get an assembly, so you don't have to create it. I did because I already have one. You'll have a blank space like this. You'll go up to insert and you'll see all the pieces that you made. You'll want to start with the base plate first. So I left click on the base plate and I left click out in the field, and you can see it sits there. Now I can rotate around holding the right button down and see the base plate. Now my first piece I want to go ahead and put in is that wall piece. So I'll come up to the front wall, left click on it, and then left click again. Now what you're going to want to do is take your fasten mate and left click on it, and you want to find the dead center of this tongue and groove piece. So I'm going to find this tongue piece and left click on it, and then what I'm going to do is come underneath where it goes, and it goes right here. And what I'm going to do is find that center point right, let me see if I can turn it. Sometimes you got to work on how, there it is. So there's the center, and I left click. Now let's see what happens. Let me try that again. I might have misclicked. Click. And then down here. left click. There. Now it's fastened. Now, if you need to turn it for any reason, you can by going here and twist and turn the piece. This one doesn't need to be turned, okay? So, and then I hit check. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this is because it's really hard to set the limit right. So your house will look better if we do it like this. So then I'll go to the side panel piece, go to insert, and I'll go to where it says side panel. Here's a side panel piece, and I'll left click. And then right here I'll go to fasten, find that center on that tongue puzzle piece. And then what I'll do is come over to where it goes, find the center of that slot, left click, and now look, this one needs to be turned, and it needs to go the opposite way. So first I hit the arrow to go the opposite way, and then I turn it. And then I hit check. Alright, now I messed up on where I put it. I actually had it go on top, so let me undo that. It needs to be down here. So I can just go over to this fasten, right click, and delete. Let's try it again. I'm going to left click and hold the mouse button down to move it out of the way. Let's try that fasten again. So I'll come underneath, center, and left click. And let's see if I can do this. Left click and center, and then I'll hit check. Now it lines up right. Now you'll see sometimes that this piece may not look like it lines up. Now that's important. If it doesn't line up, then that gives you some information that you might have made some changes that need to be fixed. Again, there is some wiggle room with the holes, so these parts do move, so it's okay. It would be bad if you saw this slot right here all the way up here, or it'd be bad if this is too high and it's going up here and it's going to block the roof piece. You simply keep following this pattern until you have everything assembled. So I'm going to do it again. I go to insert, and then I go down and find the side panel piece, and I left click. And then I'm going to go over to the fasten option, left click on the center of the face till I see it. I left click till it turns yellow. And then what I'm going to do is come down underneath here and make sure I get the outside part of this hole. Here we go. There it is. And then I left click. I can see it needs to be turned like so. And then I hit check. So you can see that you can put in multiple parts of the same part in the drawing. That's why you didn't need to draw two of these pieces. Good luck. This is your final test to put it all together and assemble it. So I hope you have a good time doing this, and I hope this video was helpful. Now I do want to show you one last thing because I said I would. Here's an example of the toy house, the wooden toy house number 3, I believe. And I basically called it House 3. That's why I said H3. And then to name these parts, all you have to do is right click and say rename, so you can call it the piece that it's supposed to be. And you can see what this house is supposed to look like at the end. So this is what your house should look like at the end of your drawings. Alright, and it looks like I need to bring this down. I did the slider mate on this one, which I shouldn't have done. You can see it causes some issues. But the slider mate is this one right here, and I decided that you should just use the fasten mate. But here's what it looks like, and I hope this helps you out. So I'm going to drag this down to make it look right. There we go. There. Should look right now. Good luck.